All right, spawning here in the bottom right corner, we have our Polish Protoss player, Bonyth.
And cross map position, blue Protoss, Chinese Hope. It's Zhanhun.
Zhanhun. Yeah. So we got a cross map Radeon, so very long travel distance here for this mirror matchup.
Yeah. I'm just like I mentioned for the game. I feel that we won't see anything surprising from Bonyth.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering what will be Zhanhun's approach. Didn't see too many Zhanhun's games separate from those in the BSL. I'm wondering what he will play, how he will open.
Yeah, it'll be pretty interesting to see how these two clash here. And what you said about Bonyth, it's so true, and that's what makes him such a scary player. You have to be a different kind of caliber if you're doing the same thing and everybody knows what you're going to do and you're still winning at such a high win rate in this matchup. Like that's a terrifying thing. That just means that he's that good at what he does.
Yeah, and on top of that, he has that kind of killer instinct when he will see that you made one mistake. Sometimes when you play a player, okay, you made a mistake, but he might haven't used it. In Bonyth, there's not such an option. It is a mistake. He's going for your throat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the surprising fact. It's like sometimes I feel like perfect execution and perfectly thought through execution of a PvP build, especially in the PvP.
Yeah, for sure. And as much as we're praising Bonyth, that of course doesn't mean that Zhanhun's not really more of the same, right? Zhanhun got to where he was because he's also just an excellent player. So, yeah, like you said,
Yeah.
I'll be very curious to see how he wants to approach this series.
Yeah, I remember when Zhanhun and the Chinese players started playing by BSL. I was really happy with that, and surprised with how good they were. And in the last 2 weeks, when I was looking at Zhanhun's game, it was like, yo, that's really good. They are really, really good.
Yeah, I'm really happy we're getting these matches with the Chinese players.
So, in the game, nothing is happening out of the ordinary, separate from the fact that Zhanhun delayed his scout and went for a cross-border scout. That's surprising. And Bonyth decided to skip the Zealot.
Yeah, I'm wondering what makes him go for the cross spawn scout like this.
I think it might have. I think it might have had something to do with the timing of the probe coming to Zhanhun's Bane. He could have had it figured out. Okay, if it's 3 minutes, then it means that it's second position that is scouted. Then okay, let's go cross map, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. But the thing that I'm surprised at is recently I see Bonyth quite often skipping his initial Zealot. Right, so when both players are attacking, it can be okay. It's something very useful. But if, for example, Zhanhun would decide to go for 2-gate, that could be very difficult for Bonyth to defend against without the initial Zealot.
Yeah, I do like the call to do it on Radeon. I don't know for sure this would be a stall process, but for me, it's such a big map that a lot of times players don't want to go for that 2-gate because if you get cross spawn and it's 10-12, the travel distance is so long that there's usually 2 goons left by the time you get there, which is terrible.
Yeah.
So I like him going to skip the Zealot because the chances of an early aggression with Zealot on this map seems to be really low.
And that might be the mind game. And look, he skipped the Zealot and he has 2 gates and already a Robo. I think Zhanhun might be, I don't know, also went for Robo, yeah, so he has an advantage in the gateway, so the production will be bigger, but probably Zhanhun will have a faster expansion.
Yeah, we might get that crawl expand. I wonder why Bonyth went for the 2-gate instead of Robo. I'd kind of like to understand the thought process, because kind of for the same reason I feel like you would skip the Zealot, you would also just want to get the faster tech out, right? Because you're typically not going to get aggressed on very early on this map. So I wonder what made him want to play like extra safe with this 2-gate.
Maybe it might have something to do with the fact that, like you said, that he skipped the Zealot. He wanted to be a little bit more safe because
Yeah.
when let's play it out, right? So if Zhanhun would decide to attack, he would go with 3, for example, goons and a Zealot, and Bonyth with 1 gate
Yeah.
would have probably only 3 goons. So plus the defender's advantage. So might be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, that actually is a pretty valid point. So yeah, I guess going to the second gate allows them just to continue pumping probe and kind of keep that 1 probe advantage. It's not much, right? But it's a little something, and sometimes those little micro things can make a difference.
Yeah. But in StarCraft, those small things add up pretty
Exactly.
significantly.
Yeah.
Okay, both observers missed each other, so
Yeah, we went second observer for Zhanhun. Did Bonyth go straight for? I don't think he made a second observer, right? He's going straight for his Reaver tech. Yeah. So a little bit risky actually if a DT had come in, because there is kind of that timing sometimes depending on when they drop the Templar tech that a DT can come in after your first observer is gone. But I guess confident that Zhanhun not doing any sort of DT aggression, and he is correct. So gonna get that slightly faster Reaver out despite the Solar Robo.
and I like the current meta in PvP where I hate PvP in general, but the current meta with two Robo Reaver with upgrades with everything, it's really nice. It's very dynamic, very heavy in action, drops, permanently attacking with Reavers.
Mm-hmm.
It's and especially for a person that like Bonnie that has really good River micro, it's a like nice shift in the meta.
Yeah, I actually think it's fun to watch. So I'm kind of the same as you. The reason I quit Protoss was because I hated PvP so much, right? And I swapped to Terran. But watching the high level players here and seeing them do, even though it's like kind of the same thing every game, it's Reaver Goon versus Reaver Goon. I haven't got bored of it yet. It's really fun to watch. Like you said, it's really dynamic. There's a lot of fighting and stuff that typically goes on when these two builds clash, and it's fun to follow like the little bits and pieces of like micro advantages, right? Where some guy can have the same army as another one, but then come out with a massive advantage because he just microed and targeted slightly better. So it's actually really fun and interesting to watch.
Look, both players are almost mirroring, moving out at the same point in time, but Bonnie has to reverse, right? That's the difference. Now it will be all about and 3 Zealots surprisingly might be the how to say it, the thing that will determine the outcome of the game, because they will, without proper targeting, they will take the damage dedicated for goons. So I'm surprised with the 3 Zealot opening, to be honest.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Like they are pretty good, like you said, for kind of like tanking a little bit of the Reaver shots, and they kind of keep the shots going off the goons a little bit. And just kind of minimizes the splash some. But yeah, usually you don't see them this early, right? Against the Reavers. Like
Okay, probably the 3 Zealots were the result of the fact that Zhanhun went for shuttle speed earlier.
That would make sense, yeah. All right, 2 Reaver shots gonna chip away at the Zealots here, and Bonyth getting into kind of an interesting position. He's getting between the rallies here and the army, and he's just gonna dive onto the natural, so things are gonna get kind of crazy here. He's gonna find that Reaver very quickly and get a nice quick pick off on that Reaver. He's gonna get into the mineral line. A great shot on the probes here, and immediately targets down another one of the Reavers, gets both of his Reavers out of the way, and Bonyth is taking an amazing fight here. He's gonna lose his army, and as long as we don't lose this Reaver, but the shuttle is gonna go down, and the fight's gonna come out, I would say, pretty Bonyth favored all in all. He does lose all of his army, but he killed a fair amount of probes, so as long as he doesn't take damage on the other side, he's going to be in a pretty good position now. But that was kind of a crazy decision. I can't believe he just ran straight into the natural.
Yeah, I was really also surprised with that, but the initial shots of the probes made the whole difference, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it weren't for that, I actually wouldn't have liked it for Bonyth, to be honest with you. But because he does get that probe shot, I think overall it turns out okay. Now we are getting that Reaver coming across the map. I'm not sure if Bonyth spotted that he did. So these goons are going to try to get in a position to intercept it. The shuttle's going to commit into the mineral line. So if it keeps going, this is a one-way ticket. Okay, he gets the one shot off. Bonyth's going to get a good pull off and not take any damage. Just slightly interrupted mining. So good reaction from Bonyth. Zhanhun did a good job of rebuilding those probes right away and getting back into his slight probe lead. So the game after that is pretty even, actually. Now there is a slight Reaver advantage for Bonyth at the moment. Once again, try to dive into the natural here, but don't think we found any damage.
But really good reaction times, right? A lesser player probably wouldn't manage to move back so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he was chasing the army a bit. So yeah, like you said, a lot of players would have been kind of focused on that and would have missed the redrop that kind of swung around the side there. But Bonyth once again getting into position. Bonyth loves to be very aggressive with his positioning, and I was actually talking with him about this the other day. Nice shot onto the Reaver, dodges another Reaver shot as well. He's winning these little micro battles here pretty handily so far. And gonna push in here. And timing his drops actually to come out between the Reaver shots. Both shuttles gonna go down. All the Reavers gonna go down. Zhanhun winning this battle pretty handily with his defensive reinforcements. And Bonyth gonna go back home with his tail tucked between his legs. Down about 20 supply, 5 workers right now, so Zhanhun just took a really good fight.
Yeah, that was a little bit too aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I was saying before that fight broke out, I was talking with Bonyth about how he really likes to get to the natural with his farming because he likes to get in those little micro fights, but Zhanhun coming out and fighting him constantly, not allowing Bonyth to get into the position that he wants to, and now Bonyth is the one retreating back home. Zhanhun just running around, making sure that Bonyth isn't getting a third base up and running while taking his own third. So he can pretty happily just stay in a kind of soft-contained position here. He knows that he had a really good fight. He's taking his own third, so he doesn't have to try and push for the end or anything like that. Bonyth, on the other hand, knows that he's probably in a little bit of trouble. He knows that Zhanhun is likely expanding behind this. He's left a lot of guns down here at the natural to avoid that constant Reaver has. Zhanhun's actually been really aggressive about flying in with the shuttles over and over again.
Yeah, the constant threat is making a difference. And what's worth mentioning here, Zhanhun is keeping Bonyth blind, right? Killing those pylons, those other pylons, is making the difference, making the threat even bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, losing that vision does make him really uncomfortable, right? Because now he doesn't see the shuttle coming in as easily. But another fight gonna break out here in front of Bonyth's base. We see that even though Zhanhun has that third base up and running, he's not making any more probes because he's fully committed to just keeping the tempo advantage. And gonna lose both of his Reavers on the top side here, just barely. Does dive on top of that shuttle though from Bonyth, and he has a perfect full surround here with these goons. Gonna clean up these goons, gonna clean up this Reaver, and GG is called. Zhanhun gonna take game 1 over Bonyth.
Yeah, after the initial fight, I was thinking that Bonyth is a little bit up in front, but the later on, how Zhanhun took those fights and managed to deflect any potential aggression of Bonyth in a very good manner. Everything that added up to his win. Really perfect execution. I'm wondering if any of the players made the plus 25 damage upgrade to their Reavers.
Yeah, I would imagine so, right? In these matchups, they almost always get it. It is a matter of when they get it, because it is pretty expensive. It's 200, so you definitely can't get it right away. So, yeah, I guess it usually just depends how long it goes on for.
Okay, we're ready for game number 2. I think we can move directly to the second game.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, spawning here in the bottom right on Polestar, we have Bonyth.
Whereas on the bottom left side of the map, we have our blue Protoss Zhanhun that is currently 1-0 against Bonyth. So Polestar.
Polestar. Yeah, this one's interesting. Because we saw when Bonyth played against QiaoGege, Jaja. I'm not about to say it anymore now. I guess you guys are calling him Gaga. I guess I'll do it too. So QiaoGege, when he played against him on this map, QiaoGege was doing a really good job of using the high grounds and like outmaneuvering Bonyth. So we saw Bonyth struggling with that a little bit against him. I wonder if Zhanhun might do some of the same. It definitely seems like this map can kind of reward you for positioning in the middle a bit more and less so in their natural.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, and I'm wondering why Zhanhun isn't scouting, right? That's interesting. The late scout, usually the players scout after the gateway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the thought process there?
Yeah, I'd imagine it's, if I had to guess, right, that Zhanhun might be thinking, I know what Bonyth is going to do. He's going to do pretty much the same thing every game. I don't need to scout him early. I can be a little bit greedier with my scout. And just kind of get that little bit of extra mining, so he's not in as much of a hurry.
Yeah, probably you're right. Yeah, just curious. But going back to the game, both players are opening in a very standard manner. So Cybercore, nothing more is happening. This time Bonnie decided to go for the initial Zealot.
Yeah, both players gonna get it. And Zhanhun gonna get that quick first scout here. But yeah, it's gonna be a mirror here to start, and yeah, we'll see the expansion timing. That's most likely where we're gonna see the first real divergence, right? Sometimes you see that second gateway before the robo, and that's about it. I mean, Zhanhun, again, I don't really know a whole lot about how he plays either, so he could go for something like a 3-gate or something like that, so we'll keep an eye on him. But for Bonyth, we generally know it's going to be 1-gate robo, 2-gate robo, and not really much else.
Yeah, probably so. Okay. Nothing out of the ordinary. Both players started almost immediately at the same point in time. Their gun range. Bonnie just managed to scout his opponent, but due to the fact that this was the last scouting position, he's not able to go into his opponent's main base.
Yeah. You know, I just had a thought too about Zhanhun's opener and how he does this later scout. I guess if you get first scout, your probe is going to get in anyway, and if you do it earlier and you get second scout, you might not necessarily get in, right? Nice moving shots here from Bonyth. Gonna almost take out that probe, but gonna take a couple shots here, and this probe is gonna end up going down. Not quite actually, 2 HP, so it regenerated just enough shields to stay alive. And yeah, there's the robo coming down from both players, so it's just gonna be a full mirror at the moment.
Yeah, but now it's interesting because when you're playing a mirror match of especially PvP and you're not able to scout your opponent's main base, it usually triggers some decisions because you don't know if this is a DT opening. It could be an instant DT or a 3-gate gun, especially on this map, right? With those kind of high ramps. So I wonder how this will affect the decision making of Bonyth.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely information is very important in this game and all matchups, right? Because you can just respond correctly. Whereas, like you said, Zhanhun, he saw what Bonyth was doing early enough. He knows there's no like fast ET or anything like that, so he could go straight for the Reaver if he wanted to, shuttle Reaver and delay the Observer a little bit. Whereas Bonyth doesn't know, right? He has to play a little bit more cautiously, and he doesn't have to, right? He could just take the risk and say, hey, Zhanhun's not going to DT me, but like you said, he doesn't know for sure, and not having that confidence in what your opponent's doing can make a big difference.
The lack of guns in the expansion of Zhanhun might be also a hint that might be some kind of tech play. So yeah, so now Bonnie needs to start with his observer for sure.
Yeah. does look like it's going to be just a full-on, straight-up mirror. So this one's going to come down to who executes the fights properly, or army movement, things like that. Because so far we are both doing the exact same thing. Probe going to poke in here, see the goon count. And looks like Bonyth will have a slight advantage on the Nexus timing because he delayed one goon, whereas it looks like Zhanhun did not cut that additional goon.
Yeah. But separate from that, almost mirror matchups.
Yeah. Yeah, there's basically a one goon difference. This has been like the only the only thing to diversify. Oh, we've only got 2 pros running actually. We got one.
Yeah, what happened here?
That happened. That's an interesting way of making that mistake. I don't even know how that happens.
Yeah, because okay, if you would misclick, then it would just stand next to the expansion. Here it has the gas already gathered.
Yeah, that's an odd one. That means he had to have clicked it after it came out and then told it to stop immediately. Like that's the only way that could have happened. So I don't even know how that happens. It's interesting.
Maybe. Still, quite a big thing, depending on how long it took, but still.
Yeah.
Might have an impact on the game.
Now Zhanhun going to take the more aggressive positioning now over Bonyth, which allows him to get the 6 o'clock pylon down and have a spotter pylon. So he will have the advantage of having that spotter pylon at 6 o'clock, whereas Bonyth will be more defensive here. And this is kind of what I was talking about with this map. It seems to reward exactly what Zhanhun is doing, where you just kind of stay mid-map instead of pushing too aggressively, so you can just defend the high ground here a little bit.
Yeah, but it's all you know, those kind of things are double-edged swords. If you drop reverse into the expansion of your opponent, he wouldn't have enough goons to defend it probably.
Mm-hmm.
And so each and every time this is a double-edged sword.
Yep, Bonyth gonna poke forward here and see this with his observer. And we're gonna see the Reavers unload just out of vision and walk up and get a nice free shot. Really, really well played with the vision there from Bonyth. He really like perfectly understood how far those units from Zhanhun could see. So he's gonna win himself the high ground now here on Zhanhun's side of the map. We'll see how aggressive he wants to get. Zhanhun just barely not getting the shots off with that Reaver. Now he gets to move down and clear the spotter pylon, poke in with the Reavers, but Zhanhun on top of things does make sure a couple goons are there to spot. Zhanhun does catch the observer, so that's kind of nice. Bonyth's going to be a little bit more blind now than Zhanhun. Second gas finishes a bit faster for Bonyth. And what is our gateway count for Bonyth? It's going up to 4 gay right now, I think, versus the 2 from Zhanhun.
Yeah. I think Zhanhun, just added a bunch of gateways, so both will be in the moment on 4.
Bonyth's been cutting a lot more probes, too. He's much more focused on, getting the gateways out and getting the army out, but he's putting a little bit of money as he pushes forward here. So he's going to be really focused on the micro here. Nice shots here for Zhanhun. Picks off that Zealot and avoids the shots from Bonyth. But yeah, with Bonyth cutting a bunch of workers, I mean, he's down 8 workers right now. He might need to be... It's nothing too crazy, because on 2-base saturation, 38 versus 47, he's definitely mining less, but it's not too bad. So as long as he can find some half-decent trades, it can make up the deficit. He'll have the slightly more army initially because of the probe cutting.
Yeah, but he was also cutting in the earlier game, and that's a little bit surprising. Usually that Bonyth isn't doing.
Poking forward a little bit here. This is the positioning Bonyth really likes to find himself in, but we got this counter drop coming in. Bonyth does react very, very quickly to the Reaver coming in. Oh, unfortunately it was on move command, so it doesn't take the shots at the shuttle there. Does get a shot off on that Reaver though, and it gets pretty low. But Zhanhun gonna fly back into the main, might be able to find some probes here. It's going for the one right after, is gonna dud. Oh my god, and this gets picked off. This is the danger of going for these kind of plays, right? When you go into the main, it can be game winning, it can be pretty bad if you lose it like this. Bonyth did a great job of pulling so that he didn't take any losses. So now he's down 10 workers, even on supply, which means that his army is definitely slightly bigger. Scarab damage almost done as well. Nice pick on the observer there. And Zhanhun takes a little bit of bonus damage there on that second Reaver. It's kind of... that does happen sometimes. It's pretty hard to avoid. Bonyth realizes the shuttle out of position for that Reaver, so jumps forward and jumps on top of that Reaver. So great catch there from Bonyth, realizing that Zhanhun was making a slight mistake, a little bit lax in his attention there. Does have an extra Reaver that he reinforces with, but Bonyth almost has like probably 4 Reavers back at home by now. Is going to take one shot on the Reaver there, so it's going to be one shot now from death. And here we go. We're going to see more of this dance. The Reaver shuttle versus Reaver shuttle dance that we've seen so many times. Yeah.
The backstab.
Yeah, we do have those 2 additional Reavers. One of them doesn't have any Scarabs right now, though, and one Reaver going to get jumped on immediately and go down. The shuttle almost going down as well, and this is a very good counterattack from Zhanhun. Catches Bonyth completely off guard, loses both of those Reavers. The reinforcing goons will be able to push this back eventually, but even then he's going to need another unit or 2, possibly. And big fight going to break out here in the middle. Shuttle goes down for Bonyth. Does get big splash damage onto the Reavers there. One Reaver does dodge, and Bonyth is winning this fight pretty handily now. All the Reavers gone, but there's a slight goon advantage for Bonyth. He defends back at home as well, so we might see those reinforcements pressuring here. And it looks like even another Reaver came out for Bonyth. But another defending Reaver here for Zhanhun, gonna make Bonyth fall back. Man, big Reaver hits perfectly in the middle of all those goons and softens them up. And when the dust settles, once again, it's relatively even. I would say Bonyth definitely has an army advantage, but not by a whole lot. Man, Zhanhun is so aggressive with these shuttles. He is always flying out and looking for damage. Or queuing 3 Reavers. I like it. Oh no! Oh no! Huge mistake from Zhanhun. Maybe a hotkey error or something like that. Flies straight into the goons and loses that. And that's going to make this very difficult for Zhanhun now once these extra Reavers from Bonyth join. Because we're going to have 1 Reaver for Zhanhun and he has to remake a shuttle. Whereas we're going to have 2 Reavers with the shuttle for Bonyth. So he's going to have that 1 Reaver advantage when he gets across the map here.
Bonyth, even though he has 7 less probes, he's up in supply. So that's quite nice. I would say that indicates that there's a huge difference in the army supply.
Yeah.
And yet again, Zhanhun is going for a type of a backstab.
Yeah, this time with the shuttle... Or, sorry. The shuttle died. Yeah, we're going for another backstab with the goons here. Might just turn it into a flank, maybe try to deny the third. No, it looks like he is shifting towards the natural once he sees Bonyth's army pushing in. So this is going to be pretty hard. Like I said, we got the 2 Reavers and no shuttle, which is a big difference when you don't have that shuttle. Does try to dive on top of the shuttle and is going to get it with 1 Reaver inside. But Reaver's going to go down because Bonyth is trying to deal with his counterattack as well, so a lot going on. But Bonyth wins this fight with a ton of goons left over. This natural is going to go down, but is he able to defend at home? This is a lot of goons from Zhanhun as well. This game's kind of crazy. These counterattacks from Zhanhun are creating so much chaos.
But in the same time, okay, Bonyth has a huge army in his main, but in the same time, there's not too much in Zhanhun's main. Now the question, who will be able to kill the other player? Oh my god. Bonyth lost his Reaver, the only Reaver that he had together with his army.
Yeah, Bonyth kind of has to come home because the issue here is...
Yeah.
He's not killing production like Zhanhun is, right? So even though he has a lot more left over, Zhanhun is getting much more damage done overall. And Zhanhun immediately, when he sees the goons retreating, comes back down, and he's got that 3rd base up and mining on the left side just a little bit. Okay, it's only one probe on it, but we're going to be able to transfer here.
Crazy game. Those backstabs are crazy.
Wow, great army movement from Zhanhun. He walks straight to the third of Bonyth, knowing that Bonyth is coming back to defend his main. So he's going to kill this third base while getting to keep his own. So they're both going to be on one base mining, but the natural from Bonyth going to be much lower total money to mine. Worker count's also gotten very, very low, down to 29-25. Zhanhun once again looking for a backstab, and I don't think Bonyth is going to be expecting this one. He does have the defensive cannon here, but I'm not sure that it's going to be enough to deflect it before he takes too much probe damage. Is looking away initially, but we have this big fight breaking out in the middle. Bonyth is going to win this one, with a lot more left over. If we can deflect this Reaver without taking too much damage and deny the third, does catch the shuttle, but the Reaver does get out. And Bonyth is taking a lead back here. What a crazy
back and forth.
Yeah. Nice goon splitting there. I loved the movement from Zhanhun. I don't know if it was good.
yeah. But really interesting. I'm surprised that Zhanhun, when he was in bonus main, didn't decide to kill the Robo, because it was heavily damaged.
That's
but
true.
Still,
wow.
3 HP.
That's a really good point. He's going to defend the high ground here with these 3 cannons, so Bonyth not going to be able to attack in there, actually. It would be far too inefficient. Kind of actually a really strong setup here. And yeah, he's going to be able to defend the high ground here with the Reaver. Man, that's a really good point. If he killed that Robo, I mean, he's so far behind in army, but yeah, having that Reaver advantage in cannons and stuff, it actually could have been pretty good for Zhanhun as long as he can hold on here. Bonyth going to go for it, jumping on top of this, but good micro from Zhanhun so far, avoiding taking too many shots from the goons, but it might just be overwhelming numbers. Going to finish these cannons off, come in with these extra goons, and just barely going to kill this Reaver and dislodge this third base from Zhanhun. But supply has evened up quite a bit. Zhanhun very close to holding this base, but now with the goons on the high ground here, he's going to pivot to fight the top side here, killing more of these probes, and Bonyth looks like he's just barely going to squeak out the lead here at the end of this fight.
This is a crazy game.
Man, that was close to a defense from Zhanhun. The supply got even for just a second there. If his reinforcements could have got up there a little bit faster. That's kind of crazy. Is going to go for this last little counterattack here. But with the cannon, the extra goons, and the Reaver shuttle. And the shuttle goes down with the Reaver inside. And that is going to do it. GG is called.
GG.
Game going to be tied up 1-1. What a crazy one. Zhanhun's a madman.
I rarely see those kind of backstabs, and Zhanhun did 3 of those. And the last one was amazing. I really thought that at that point, even though Bonyth managed to kill his natural expansion, it will be very, very, very difficult to retake his main. Amazing.
Yeah.
Really good play.
Yeah, and I love the way Zhanhun, he waited till Bonyth left, because Bonyth suddenly realized, at first Bonyth was like, oh, I'll just hold this position, I have a great position, he'll never be able to leave his base. But then Bonyth starts to realize, he's like, wait a second, my entire base is going to die if I don't go back home. And Zhanhun's decision to immediately come down and kill that third, I loved that. I just wish he had gone home right after killing the third, right? I think he kept going and he lost too many units, and I feel like that's where he kind of lost his potential advantage after all that. These Chinese players are aggressive, man.
Yeah. So, therefore, I'm even more looking forward to the third game. And we're ready, so I think we can move to the deciders match.
All right, spawning here in the top right on Eclipse, we have Bonyth.
Whereas Zhanhun is on the bottom left on Eclipse. So again, red and blue. Let's see who will win.
Man, Eclipse is we got some history on this map with Bonyth. The last couple times he's played this map, PvPs, it's been kind of wild, so we'll see if we can get another crazy one to finish this off. Yeah, I know we're trying to get through these games quickly. I just get excited. I get excited about my StarCraft, and sometimes you gotta tell me to shut up, you know.
Okay. Yeah, it might be a two-gate pylon from Bonyth, but also I remember talking to Bonyth about this. In case of any kind of gateways in front of your main or somewhere, or two-gate rush, then you need to have your first gate next to the ramp in order to move and block the ramp in a very fast, very quickly. So on those kind of two-player maps, Bonyth is quite often building his initial gateway in front. But this also can mean, like you said, Zero, that will be a two-gate. Yeah.
So we are getting the 10-12 out of Bonyth. It's interesting because I kind of don't like it on this map. The rush distance is a little bit longer than normal close spawns on a map, and it's also guaranteed to get first scouted by your opponents. So they can prepare properly, but
yeah, so quite often it's enough to just build, instead of the second gun, go for 2 zealots and have a shield battery on the ramp, and you're safe, right?
Yeah. Oh, is Zhanhun skipping 14 zealot? He's gonna make it. It's gonna be delayed, but that does. Well, can you make it? Because now it's gonna eat into the goon timing if you do.
He will go for a second gate.
Yeah.
But he's blocking it. Oh, nice.
Wait, this is really bad for Zhanhun, actually. The second gate got delayed. He's gonna go straight into the goon, so he's not gonna have the zealot. This is a crazy read from Bonyth to go for the 10-12 here, and it's gonna be the first time Zhanhun does skip a zealot. So these three zealots have a high potential of getting good damage. And it's also good for Bonyth to see the second gateway come down, so he can very quickly identify what his opponent's doing. You don't have to worry about like any sort of like hidden DT, but it's pretty easy to kind of get that information anyway. You look for the third pylon. But man, this could be rough for Zhanhun. The only thing is, if Zhanhun defends this well, oh, and the Manor pylon trapping 3 probes as well, that's pretty rough. But I was gonna say, if Zhanhun defends this well, he's gonna have like 5-ish goons with range pretty quickly.
Block the ramp! Block the ramp!
Yeah, nice body block here from the probe. Gonna allow the zealots to get a little bit of extra damage on this goon. Probe does go down. They're gonna get inside, so they're looking for at least 2 probe kills, but we're even getting some kind of unsaid damage here with this Manor pylon. And I've noticed that goon. I was gonna say Bonyth likes to go for those goons a little bit. We'll see how well the probe micro is. 1 probe is gonna go down. Looks like a second one gonna go down as well, and even a third. So this is great damage. 4 probes now. And Bonyth very happy with the amount of damage we've done here. So 4 probes down, that gives him that 4 probe lead. So as long as he doesn't take any damage from the goons coming across the map,
pylon
he's
block.
gonna be very comfortable.
The pylon block also added a little bit of economic damage to that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, pretty nice, I would say.
And even gonna get the scouting probe here, and you just see it in the worker count now. This is a great start for Bonyth. I can't believe he just had the soul read on Zhanhun that he was not going to go for the zealot this game or what, but yeah, great start for Bonyth here. Yeah, so we're going to see a little bit of like an attempt to poke, but it's not really possible, right? Bonyth is just going to stay up on the ramp, and he kind of waits until his range is just about done. We're going to see 2 more zealots get queued up so he can go for that robo a little bit faster.
Yeah, because at this point in time, that's a little bit of risky and tricky, because when your opponent, after defending the initial push from the Zealot, would decide to go for a Dark Templar, he would instantly kill you. So it's a little bit tricky. You need to, in the same time, do the gun range, because he will die if you won't have it, and at the same time, you need to be prepared just in case with these.
Yeah. Yeah, usually you see the robo after the 6 goons, and then you go double zealot, but Bonyth wanted to play extra safe here, and going for those 2 zealots before the 6 goons, and I think it's just because he did so much damage He just wants to be extra safe right now because he knows how far ahead he is. And gonna come down. The Zealots are also good for just taking space because they tank so much damage for your goons. And now we're gonna get the kind of typical follow-up push here to be like, all right, let's test and make sure our opponent's staying honest, that he's not being too greedy. You know, if he's taking a Nexus, this is basically what this push is looking for, but
Yeah.
there is no Nexus for Zhanhun behind this. He's just gone into his Robo and trying to get quick Reavers out. And once Bonyth gets in here and confirms the goon count, he's going to get the information he needs. But nice initial volley from Zhanhun. Bonyth having a little bit of a hard time getting his units kind of arced correctly. But he's seen what he needs to see. He saw that goon count. He knows there's no Nexus. He just comes back home.
Both players are going for the Reaver, though Bonyth with the Observer. So it means that Zhanhun will have a faster Reaver. That might indicate a very, very strong push. Okay.
Yeah, hopefully Bonyth doesn't go for this Nexus here. He's made a bunch of extra probes, which is normal, but Zhanhun's completely cut probes. Zhanhun is he's just gonna go for a follow-up all in, it looks like. He did finally make one more probe, but he sat on 23 probes for an extremely long time. I think he just did the one more to even it out, to get to that even supply. But yeah, we're gonna see a push here from Zhanhun. I imagine Bonyth is going to be waiting for that Observer to get information before he drops the Nexus here, but he's going to see this push coming across just in time, and he knows he's bringing this Observer back now. He's going to use it for vision to help him. Oh, no, he's going to go back across the map. Okay. And here we go. Reaver out for Bonyth, though, just in time as well, so going to be defending here. Zhanhun immediately pounces up inside and goes for this one goon pick. Is going to get that killed. And oh my god, the shuttle goes down immediately. So now we have a shuttle advantage with the Reaver here. Trying to pounce on top of Bonyth's shuttle, but Bonyth's not going, just out of range. This fight is going to be very, very close. The shuttle does go down, but it's just barely a defense for Bonyth, it looks like. With the reinforcements coming out from his gateways here. But we do have more goons coming across, and oh my god, wait, our goons are really far behind. I kind of thought they were about to finish.
Yeah, exactly. I think Bonyth didn't produce his unit during the attack, but perfect targeting by Bonyth.
Yeah, might be kicking himself though about missing a cycle of units there. Even made a shield battery on the high ground because he realized he had made a mistake. I don't know if he was supply blocked or what happened there, but yeah, he definitely missed a cycle. But is going to barely defend. Nexus does finish. That was a scary moment for Bonyth. When I saw like 5 and 6 goons coming up for Zhanhun and we had 2, I thought Bonyth might die here.
Yeah, it looked very, very difficult, but Zhanhun, I think, recognized that he can't push that, so he decided to go back a little bit, probably waiting for his straddle.
Yeah. Yeah, and behind that, Zhanhun actually did a good job of catching back up. He's caught up in workers now. His Nexus is also done, and I can't believe this game is going to stabilize after Bonyth being up 5 workers in the very beginning. Alright, Zhanhun just going to sit here on the high ground. Now, this is actually an advantage for Bonyth for sure. They might be even and relatively close on supply, but Bonyth does have those extra gateways down early, much earlier than Zhanhun again, so he's going to have that extra bit of production earlier than Zhanhun. And Zhanhun is not afraid to go for this with those Reavers. Actually does get a... Did he get a connection? Or no? Never mind.
No, it didn't get a connection. But you're right, he's very aggressive with those drops. I wouldn't go for that, probably.
Yeah, I've lost too many of my shuttles and reavers going for that. But Zhanhun has no fear. He's going to catch this observer. It's really nice for Bonyth. Because you don't have to, because you don't have to, but you really want the observer here to help you get vision. And you don't want to be remaking your observers. You want to keep making reavers and shuttles. Once again, Bonyth playing the vision pretty well and getting a little bit of a shot on the goons there. Gonna push him back and get the high ground. Nice shot from Zhanhun, though. Gonna pick off a goon. A little bit aggressive from Zhanhun. Both Reavers going down with the shuttle. And he's going to have more goons, but with the two Reavers here, it feels like Bonyth should be able to win this fight. Great goon spread, though, from Zhanhun to minimize the splash damage. I mean, he's going to get the shuttle at the end, but yeah, great fight from Bonyth. We see it reflected in the supply now. He's up 24 supply, a bunch of units at home. Still two Reavers left over here. And Bonyth suddenly in a pretty commanding position.
And on top of that, there are 5 gateways versus 4, so this gives a little bit of an edge for Bonyth, and we see it reflected in his supply. Okay. I look at Zhanhun's units on the 12 o'clock, let's say, and I'm thinking, backstab.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a potential comeback mechanic, right? Creating the chaos and maybe getting into a good position on the other side of the map. Even crawling our Reaver across the map, why not?
And that's the big advantage of 3 Reavers versus 1.
Yeah,
huge.
That's huge. Alright, I think we're going to see the trigger get pulled here relatively soon. He kind of pokes ahead with the observer here, sees only the one Reaver, and he's like, hey, that's not that scary. Goes straight for the shuttle, ignores the Reaver initially. Gonna drop his 2 Reavers off, the 1 extra Reaver reinforcing. And even though Zhanhun going to be able to pick up 2 of these Reavers on the top side, there's no goons left over and a ton of goons left over for Bonyth, so he's going to push into the natural, and it looks like Bonyth is going to wrap this game up. That Reaver taking a break. He walked a long way. He's tired. And
we have
GG.
GG.